Hello and welcome to another episode of the EG Success Mindset Podcast, a space created for business owners, team leaders, and individuals who want to learn how to communicate with clarity, develop self-confidence, and build high-performing team culture. Together, we explore your C.O.D.E personality framework and the C3 leadership frameworks. So if you're ready to uncover your potential, optimize your performance, and multiply your productivity, you are in the right place. I am your host, Ernest Gikuma, and welcome to today's episode. Now, last week, or in the last episode, we explored the architecture of leadership. And we talked about how each C.O.D.E develops leadership and why it's important for you to plan out how you are going to create leadership for your own self and how you're going to influence those around you. Because always remember, if you don't plan for yourself, someone else is going to impose their plans on you. Today we are going into what really makes leadership work, and it is trust, the bridge between design and influence. So last week we talked about designing or architecturing your leadership. Today we go into activating it. We're going to bridge the two through trust. Right. So remember, without trust, nothing really works, to be honest, because trust is the currency of influence. Now, in today's world, there are people called influencers online. And even though they have taken advantage of so many people by putting on a mask, in time, those masks are falling off and people are getting to understand they're not necessarily influencing us towards the right direction. And therefore, the trust is now broken. One of the highest level of trust in today's world, biblically based, is a form of marriage between a man and a woman. These are two strangers who meet together, backed by a complexity of other people, and then they end up in the same house together at night in the middle of the night. And in most cases, they have basically nothing on, really. So can you imagine the level of trust that needs to be in a working relationship for it to work? The moment that trust is broken, families break down, communities break down, and effectively nations also don't work. So trust is a very important part of your leadership style. Now, each C.O.D.E builds trust differently. Each one of, whether you're a connector, if you're an organized person, if you're detail-oriented, and if you're an effervescent person, you build your trust differently. What does the word trust mean in the first place? I looked it up on the dictionary, the Cambridge Dictionary. I'm from England at the end of the day. Now, it says to believe that someone is good and honest and will not harm you, or that something is safe and reliable. So if we take those four words, good, honest, safe, and reliable. Right. So if you're a leader, then you want to be seen by your team that you are a safe person, you're a good person, you're an honest person, and you're also reliable. Now, all of those come together and form trust. So let's go into each C.O.D.E and let's see how we can expand in terms of your personality code. Now, remember, if you've not taken the personality code assessment, go to mycodeprofile.com. That is mycodeprofile.com, and take your assessment. And that simply will give you an understanding of where you are, or who, or your makeup, so to speak. Now, remember, the code, your personality is not set on rock per se. Okay, it shifts. It's possible to be an organizer and a connector. It's possible to be a very effervescent and detail-oriented. So this code simply means there is always a dominant personality, and you draw strength from the other ones. And if to lead authentically, you want to lead from your center. You want to lead from your strengths, not your weaknesses. So connectors build trust through emotional consistency and care. Now, I'll give you one very quick example of the kind of connectors that you can trust almost every single time. Nurses in a hospital, if not all of them, I would bet that 99% of all nurses are connectors. Why? If you go through the C.O.D.E personality of the connector, you will understand they care deeply. They really truly care. Their language is us, we, you. The I person comes much later. So connectors trust emotionally and relationally. They lose trust. If you want to lose trust with a connector, give them a cold shoulder, disconnect from them. Okay? That is normally a sign that you can't be trusted. The moment you're no longer opening up. Now, if you happen to be in a relationship, and let's say you are a detail-oriented person, technical person, and you're married to a connector, there's always going to be conflict. And again, the C.O.D.E personality profile can help you understand yourself, understand your partner, and therefore bring harmony and rebuild trust in your relationship. It's not just about business, because the family is the number one order of business. Right, so let's continue with this now. So we see that if you're a leader and you're leading connectors, watch out for the emotional trap of coldness. If you want to punish them, okay, you can give them a cold shoulder, but it's going to backfire on you. You know why? Because they are emotional persons, they will misinterpret your signal. So do not give them a cold shoulder, rather have a conversation with it. You don't have to be all emotional. You can have a constructive conversation and they will understand because you care. That's the word. So emotional safety is the foundation of relational trust. Emotional safety is very important because it simply means the connectors can trust you. What about organizers? Organizers trust through reliability and order, which simply means highly organized individuals, in most cases, they have problems to trust connectors. Why? Because in most cases, connectors are not your most orderly people. Okay? Now, that's not a judgment. It is basically an understanding of personalities. Now, they trust structure, they trust reliability, and they trust predictability. Organizers almost think with their left side of their brain. Things need to make sense. Color coding, the way they dress, almost everything around them, and it's depending on where they would lay on the spectrum. So you have the extreme organized persons, and then you come to less and less organized. So organizers then, they lose trust through chaos and inconsistency. All right. Now, personally, I am a people person. I am a connector. Sometimes the detail-oriented person shows up. But I have had to learn how to be organized. I still struggle every once in a while, and especially now, doing a podcast, to do some training. Sometimes I do struggle with consistency, but I have people around me, I have systems that allow me to stay focused on what it is I want to achieve. So organizers, they trust through reliability and order, okay? And to break their trust, chaos and inconsistency. So for them, consistency is the right environment for them to grow. Okay? Now, let's have a look. Now, most individuals who will fall in this category are very likely to work in law enforcement, because there's a very specific order, there's a very specific reliability, there's procedures. Now, the moment the procedure starts to go haywire, their internal systems are shaken. Their confidence is shaken. Even though it's not them doing something wrong, they can no longer trust the organization or the individuals or the team leaders and so on. So trust is the soil that they grow on. Our next personality, D, detail oriented. They trust through accuracy and integrity. Okay? They trust competence, truth, and mastery. They lose trust through dishonesty and careless errors. Now, I'll give you a quick example. When the United States current president, sitting president, got elected, he brought along Elon Musk with him, and they created an organization called C.O.D.E, trying to go through the systems and remove all the corruption and the fraud and the waste and so on. You can then see Elon Musk's detail-oriented personality right there taking charge and trying to clear off all the mess, all the clutter and all the chaos. Because it was difficult to trust that the systems were working correctly. What about when he bought Twitter, now X, which is a brilliant, excellent fit, especially in today's world where freedom of speech is being curtailed all around the world. Not to go political, but it's a statement of fact. The moment he bought Twitter, what did he do? He went in, ripped up the entire system, and started creating more accuracy and integrity within the system. So you can see there that he leads with his personality type. Okay. Now, if you go again in your business, in your organization, you will then see the same thing. What about Richard Branson, one of the most successful British entrepreneurs in recent history? He is a connector. He is so much a connector that I heard of a testimony that when he was called by his accountant once, he was asked whether he knows the difference between net profit and gross profit. He said he had no clue. He was running a multi-billion-dollar business at that point. He did not know the detail. So you can see that you don't need to be everything to everyone for you to succeed. The moment you know where you are, you can start bringing the right people around you to continuously build yourself. So the detail-oriented person trusts through accuracy and integrity. So excellence is a form of honesty as far as they are concerned. So they try to bring in excellence because they thrive on very high level of knowledge and understanding. They require that intellectual authority. And it doesn't matter which company you're in. It doesn't matter which country you come from. You will see these signs of individuals. So if you're a team leader and you happen to be a technical person, you fall prey of liking the technical people more than the others. Watch out. That's a weakness. Because if you're a team leader, you need to embrace all your team. You need to understand your team, their weaknesses and their strengths, so that you can build a lasting organization. And finally, we have the effervescent individual. They trust through energy and intent. Okay? They trust passion, sincerity, and vision. The bigger the picture, the better. The more clearer the picture, the better. The more energetic the picture, the better. They lose trust through rigidity and suppression. In places wherever conflict grows, these are the first people to escape. Within themselves, they are not created to be suppressed. They will explode. And rather than die, they run away. If you look at most of the suppressive regimes around the world, they are normally led, interestingly enough, they are normally led by detail-oriented persons or organizers. People who fall on the lesser scale as far as emotion of connection and relation is concerned. The effervescent individuals, they trust through energy and intent. They lose trust through rigidity and suppression, because to them you're trying to control them. So people follow sincerity before strategy. The moment they can start feeling they connect with your energy, they are in. Now you'll find them, a lot of them, in big time sports, big time media, sales. They are big leaders. In politics, they make a lot of noise. They don't necessarily follow through, but they make the noise either way. And you can see they are normally pro-democracy. They are very pro-democracy. Why? Because of the element of freedom. It gives them the freedom of expression, the freedom of showing off the vision, the direction to which they are going. So if you are then if you're an effervescent individual and you're leading a connector, it's important to know the kind of language you need to speak or to use in order to create trust or to begin to build the bridges in the case trust has been broken or betrayed. Betrayal is expensive. So now let's go into the second pillar of our system. Mindset shapes how you interpret trust. Your mindset determines how you recover from betrayal, how quickly you forgive, and how deeply you commit. I'll give you a quick story. Years back, in one of the first episodes I mentioned this, I lost a significant amount of capital. Someone had learned how to present themselves in a way that they can be trusted. Unfortunately, I boarded the sinking ship. Why? Because I trusted. Remember, I am a connector. So connection to me comes easily. Trusting comes easily until I am bitten. So I went on after months of research and we ventured into the business. Lo and behold, 3 years later, the business was gone and so was the money. So the guy called me and said, listen, this is what I'm facing right now. I need you to help me out. Would you send me an extra XYZ just so I can keep the lights on? And because I was a trusting person, I went into my bank and withdrew some money and helped him out. One day I was really angry and I had the Spirit of the Lord caution me and ask me, why are you angry? Why did you choose to trust the arm of flesh? Why did you choose to trust a human being? So to me, it dawned on me, oh, the business is gone. I can never trust this person again. However, even though I can never trust him, I will forgive. Yes, I know. But I still went on and I forgive. Because I realized this. If I'm carrying the hurt within myself, the betrayal feeling, it's going to eventually start affecting those around me. Now, I can't afford external energy to come and destroy my home energy. So, understanding your mindset and your code also helps you to know how quickly you can forgive and how easily or how deeply you commit. A healed mindset creates resilient trust. A healed mindset creates resilient trust. A wounded mindset creates fearful trust. Okay, so now that I'm healed, I'm healed from that specific relation and the emotions that came along with the loss, I could move on to the next venture. I could move on to do something different. I learned my lessons, I got my t-shirt, and I keep reminding myself to trust myself. Okay, trust myself, trust those who are closest to me, who has the most to lose. Not necessarily financially, but especially relationally. Now, let me ask you this then. Who, whether in your workplace or at home, has broken your trust, or you thought they broke your trust, but you did not understand their code personality? Again, if you've not taken the code personality profile, please go ahead, take the assessment, go to mycodeprofile.com, take the profile or join the waiting list, depending on which time of year you're listening to this podcast, and start to begin to grow your self-awareness. So C3 turns trust into teamwork. Remember we said C3 is our leadership framework: communication, confidence, and culture. Trust becomes visible through confidence. If I have confidence in my children, I can trust them to do certain things. Trust becomes visible through your communication because of integrity. So I want to, because I trust my wife, I am open. I don't have anything to hide. When she was my girlfriend, I lied to her because I had my own personal selfish interests. But over time I have grown. I have grown to be a father and a loving husband. Not without the punches, not without the fire. You cannot escape the fire if you're going to build lasting trust. Which means then the communication becomes integral, and integrity is necessary for trust. And then the culture that you create then is one of safety and belonging. So because remember, trust, we said, good, safe, has no harm in it, reliable. Okay? If you're going to be a trustworthy leader, you've got to build a culture, and trust has to be right at the center of your leadership. Teams do not need perfect leaders. They need progressive leaders who are consistent, honest, and human. Trust transforms teams into movements. If you think about these major sporting leagues, and I'm going to give you an example in the United Kingdom, through leadership, Manchester United as a team, Sir Alex Ferguson built a high level of trust with his team. They created an amazing streak of successes that have not been repeated since. Why? They were not perfect, far from it. But at least he was reliable. The team knew what to expect, so they brought the best because they knew that the environment was right. So don't be afraid of fireworks when it lights up. Remember, with using your code, you can always bridge the gaps and build trust again. So trust must be built deliberately. Trust must be built differently for each personality. There is no brush that works on all. Understand your code. Take the code assessment go to www.mycodeprofile.com. Take the assessment, get to understand yourself a little bit more. I want to say thank you so much. If you haven't listened to the previous episodes, I would highly recommend go back and listen to them. They are all a series. They are one long conversation, one building on each other. And I do know that if you implement some of this information, your life will never be the same again. And that's a promise. Now, in my next episode, I'm going to be pulling most of these lessons together, and we're going to be talking about code activation, okay, with leadership lessons and reinforcement. So join me in the next episode where you are going to expand and understand how to activate your code. Until next time, I want to remind you, take action. Without action, nothing really changes. Take one of these ideas, share it with someone, discuss it with a colleague, implement it in your workplace. Until next time, God bless and take care of yourself.